Hello, everyone. I think we should be live now. So thanks for attending, everyone. To kick things off, I'll introduce myself. So my name is Ben McCarthy. I'm a Salesforce MVP. I'm founder of Salesforce Ben, and I've got 10 years experience in the Salesforce ecosystem. So why we're all here today is I've launched a book, which is a project that I've been working on over the past 6 months. So it's a book and a template pack. Oh, sorry. I'm just being told actually it was a bit laggy. I'll start again. So nice to meet everyone today. So my name is Ben, founder of SalesforceBen.com, Salesforce MVP, and the author of Secrets to Building a Salesforce Consultancy, which I've released today. So this is a book and a template pack as well, which details my journey. I kind of got thrown into the Salesforce consulting world to lead a consultancy, which is a bit of like right place, right time. But it was a really cool journey, and I've documented it all in my book to hopefully inspire the next generation of founders. So today, the format, I asked people for kind of questions, what they wanted me to cover. So I've got a huge amount of questions, which should probably take anywhere from maybe 45 minutes to an hour to cover. It's going to go through a few different sections. So there's kind of a general section to start off about founding a consultancy. Then we've got a section on sales, then marketing, then alliances, which is going to be building relationships with Salesforce, a bit about people, a bit about culture, and then to finish off a bit about operations as well. So if you've got any questions going along, feel free to put them in the chat and I'll try and pick them up. So just to remind you, we're going to go through a general section: sales, marketing, alliances, people, culture, and operations. So I'll kick off with a bit about my story then and how I kind of landed in Salesforce consulting, because it's a funny one. So I was working at Conga, the big ISV, and I wanted to get into consulting. It was kind of a logical step. I was an admin before, then I worked for Conga, and then I wanted to get into consulting to learn a bit more about the platform. So I joined a new consultancy at the time called Empower. So they were based out of Berlin, but had offices in Madrid, Barcelona, and a new office in London, which I joined. So I joined it as the second consultant. We were about four people. The managing director left, the salesperson left, and it was just kind of me and one other consultant in the London office. So I got promoted to managing director. It wasn't much of a promotion. Didn't come with a pay rise. The title was pretty much the only thing. But it was a pretty cool opportunity to lead a new office. So although we had kind of a name and an office, we were starting from scratch. We lost about 300K in the first year, and we grew to 2.5 million in revenue. So it was a pretty cool story. Let's get kicked off with the questions then. So the first one is kind of a general section, and someone's asked, what skills and experience do you regard as critical when starting up a Salesforce consultancy? So I think starting a Salesforce consultancy and being a consultant, it's kind of a perfect mix of loads of different skills. So technical expertise is definitely up there. You're going to be in a room with Salesforce prospects, Salesforce customers, Salesforce themselves, and technical expertise. You have to be the best in the room at what you're doing in terms of Salesforce. And there's a few things I've got here in terms of skills, but I think you can't have just like one or two of these. You've really got to have be a very good all-rounder. So technical expertise is the first one. Communication skills is a big one. So I'm sure anyone watching this that is a consultant will know that communication is absolutely key. But you're going to be in a room with people who might not know what Salesforce is, or people have a very good understanding of what Salesforce is, and you're going to need to adjust your approach depending on who you're speaking to, whether it might be a CEO or someone in IT who's going to be a lot more technical. A big one that a lot of people might not know about is commercial awareness. So when you're kind of building up a Salesforce consultancy, and this is kind of mainly on the Salesforce alliances side, and this is something that I'm going to be speaking a lot about in my book, but also today, which is the alliances with Salesforce. And this is kind of any big consultancy is going to have a very tight relationship with Salesforce. And you don't need to have a relationship with Salesforce to build a consultancy, but the minority of consultancies do it without forming a partnership with Salesforce. And if you're planning on forming a partnership with Salesforce, you need to be commercially minded. You need to understand how Salesforce run their deals, what the end goal is, what the motivations are behind the people that you're dealing with at Salesforce, which, spoiler alert, is to close a lot of deals. And you have to be able to support the commercial side of closing deals with Salesforce. Otherwise, yeah, then they're not going to like you very much. And the last one is industry expertise. So something that I'm going to speak about a bit more today is you really need to have industry expertise. You really need to specialize in a niche. If you don't have that yet, that's okay. And I'll kind of come to talk about that. If you do have industry expertise already, then that is a huge bonus. And I think if you might not think you have industry expertise, but I'm sure you have worked in a industry, so you probably have more industry expertise than you will have industry expertise in something, I'm sure. So those are kind of the skills that I regard as critical when starting up a Salesforce consultancy. Next question is, what are the most common mistakes in early stage Salesforce consultancies? So number one is not defining a niche. It's kind of going after everything. That's kind of like the logical step is to say I can do everything to open up your market. But actually, this is something that Salesforce don't like, and it's also something that customers kind of don't like, because if you're saying you can do anything, jack of all trades, master of none. So it's much better to have a niche. Another mistake, I think, is poor branding. So while you don't want to go overboard on branding, you don't want to be spending thousands and thousands getting a website done and a cool logo or something like that. I just think it has to look clean and professional. You're going to be the customers are going to be spending thousands and thousands of pounds or dollars with you, so it at least needs to look presentable. And there's loads of website templates out there and things like that you can use to make yourself look professional. But I want to emphasize, don't spend thousands on doing branding, but it should look good. It shouldn't look like a web page out of the 90s or something like that. Another mistake is not focusing on content early enough. So obviously this is kind of my bread and butter, coming from or been running a blog for the past 7 years. But producing content is a fantastic lead generation tool, and it's also very vital for your SEO. You're not going to kind of, if you type in Salesforce consultant and then insert your city, you'd hopefully want to come up on the first page of Google, but you're not going to do that without a content strategy. And being Salesforce consultants, I'm sure you're going to have a lot of valuable knowledge that you can put pen to paper and start putting on a blog. So that's something that I'd emphasize doing early. The next thing that people don't do is not focusing on building alliances early with Salesforce, which again I'll come on to in a bit. And then the last question of this section, kind of the general section, is naming the practice. What should you call your consultancy? I'm a big fan of being really unique and different. I don't think it matters too much. There's a lot of consultancies which I think have terrible names that have sold for millions and millions. So, I don't think it matters that much, but you want to be memorable. My advice would be to not use anything with the words cloud or CRM in, because I think that's the opposite of memorable. The company that sticks out most for me is Tequila, which were a big consultancy that got acquired by Accenture in the UK. Bright orange logo, bright orange T-shirts with the name Tequila. And they did very well for themselves. They built themselves up over 3 or 4 years and sold for a lot of money. So that's quite a nice example. I'm just going to have a look at the questions. I'll try and answer these questions in another section, but I'll carry on with the questions that I've got here. So the next section is sales, and the question is: did you focus on a niche, vertical / product, etc.? And how did you gain experience outside of the niche if your marketing messaging was centered around the niche? So as I said before, I think a niche is one of the most important things you can focus on early on. Salesforce are, I think every single team now inside of Salesforce are verticalized. So any salesperson you speak to for Salesforce will have verticals that they focus on. Might be FinServ, might be media, might be telco. And the reasons that they do that is so the Salesforce AEs have real expertise in that industry. So when they speak to customers, basically they've got a higher rate of closing them. If they can speak their language, if they can speak about previous success stories in that industry, they're just going to have a higher rate of closing. So to put it blunt, if you have better industry expertise, you're going to close more deals from Salesforce's point of view. But from the consultant's point of view, you are going to produce much better quality work if you're if it's repeatable and you're kind of doing it over and over. So we worked in financial services and we became the go-to partner for SMB in financial services. And because we'd done it loads of times, made loads of mistakes, had loads of successes, we could go into a meeting, name drop loads, talk about other people that we've implemented for, like really, really nice logos. And we would just have a really high success rate of closing people. So getting that domain expertise is really important. If you don't have a niche or don't think you have one, you need to start building one. So we didn't have a domain when we started or expertise, but the Berlin office were very good at financial services. So I kind of took that, and I had an interest in financial services, like, stocks and shares and things like that. So I kind of took their expertise and, mixed with my interest and said, these are the type of companies we focus on. And at that point, I didn't really have enough expertise to, go into a meeting and completely know what I was talking about. But we started winning financial services projects, and that just massively snowballs. And I think after you've done maybe 2 or 3 projects in a particular industry, you can call yourself a kind of industry expert. You've done it before, you've made some mistakes, what works and what doesn't work, and you can build that up that way. But as I said, I think most consultants, I would imagine most people on this, of course you've worked in an industry, so maybe you just want to amplify that and speak about and go after those kind of clients, align yourself to the relevant Salesforce teams, and then win more projects that way. So how to best show your specialization? Everywhere. So if you want to become a real industry expert, so we were financial services, but also we did a lot of startup and hypergrowth companies. And whenever Salesforce got a startup, like a well-funded startup company, they would usually come straight to us because we had associated ourselves with that industry. And that was absolutely great for us because we got loads of really cool startups, very well-funded startups, big logos, big projects. So yeah, I would put your kind of industry expertise everywhere on all your marketing material, social media, and on your presentations and things like that as well. So this was a question that I got quite a few times, which is what channels are the most effective in building up your first clients to create growth momentum? So, this is always going to be a challenge, definitely not going to be an easy thing to do when you're first starting out. The way that I see most people getting their first clients is through their personal network. So there's been a lot of consultancies that I know of in London, and I'm sure all around the world, where a contractor will be contracting for a company. The work will start to get too much and the company will want them to hire more people to help them out. So this contractor kind of turns in from a contractor to being a kind of mini consultancy with one client. That's just one example, and everyone, isn't going to be in that same position. But that is the best way to start getting clients, maybe with a contract that you've got or in your personal network. I'm sure you know people. So doing outreach to those people, seeing if they need some support is a great way to start building clients and getting those logos. Like getting customer success stories and logos is something that creates momentum. So it might be a lot of effort at the start to get a few clients, but once you kind of get more, it snowballs again. So yeah, proactive outreach on LinkedIn is very good. People in your personal network. So Salesforce is, of course, a great lead source, and Salesforce AEs like new consultancies. Like there's kind of like this line, like if you're a new consultancy and you're unproven, once you've got a couple of clients and you kind of hop over that line and now you're proven, Salesforce, from my experience, will love working with you. One, because the new consultancies are often the cheapest, which means that, if a customer has a budget of X and 75% goes on the licenses, and that little bit is left for the implementation fee or something like that. The smaller that is, the more Salesforce can sell more licenses. So that is another good way. Also start creating content. So start putting out blog posts on LinkedIn and things like that. The amount of, when I joined the consultancy and started leading it, the amount of people that reached out to me because of Salesforce Ben or because of some content I put out, I started getting loads of people from like my school or college that would reach out to me. And I'm sure it's the same with you guys on your LinkedIn. You're going to have a lot of people in your network. Maybe you never knew you used Salesforce, but now you're putting content out there and they see that on LinkedIn. They should hopefully start a project with you. So yeah, a few different ways to get started there. Maurice, at what stage is it to become important to become a Salesforce partner? So I would say ASAP. If you're serious about becoming about growing a consultancy, then ASAP. You need to start aligning to Salesforce. They're incentivized to onboard new partners. So I think they have a quota per region, and they're going to they'll have a quota to onboard new partners. So they're going to want to support you, get you introduced to the teams inside of Salesforce and things like that. Was your content targeted to C-level execs? We went after startups, so we didn't. Ours was kind of more generic. It was like startups and SMB. I think if you're going after enterprise, you probably need to focus more on kind of C-level content, but ours was just kind of generic Salesforce content, showing off our expertise, especially in the industries we were really good at, like hypergrowth and FinServe. So we did a lot of content around FinServe and things like that. So what else have we got? Tips to acquire new clients. So I think when you're starting out, you really have to give a little to get something back. So giving away freebies, so like free health checks, or when you're dealing with Salesforce, giving them a lot of time, maybe doing demos on behalf of Salesforce is a very, very good way to build relationships with Salesforce and kind of prove your worth. One thing about Salesforce AEs is they don't have a lot of technical resources. So there's usually a solution engineer which does the demos and things like that. And maybe there might be one between like 10 AEs or 8 AEs. If you can do really good demos and you can tell Salesforce AEs that you can do really good demos, then that's a complete win that will help you win favor with people. So that's that one. Someone said we're getting clients primarily via referrals from an App Exchange partner from Accounting Seed, and they're not comfortable having leads dependent on one referral source. I mean, it's very good that you've built some relationships there with Accounting Seed. I built some really good relationships actually with Accounting Seed and Conga and Talent Rover. We were referring them business; they would in turn refer us business. So ISVs are a great way to build relationships with. I'm sure a lot of people in this room probably have relationships with ISVs, so always good to reach out to them. I would agree with this person. It's not great to rely on one lead source. A lot of consultancies, we probably got 80-90% of our business from Salesforce, which sounds good. But if you, let's say, mess up a project and word gets around that actually you're not that great, those leads can stop. So it's important to diversify your lead source. But Salesforce will be the biggest lead source for a lot of consultancies. So that is the sales section. If you've got any more questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I can see a few more here. How best to leverage and gain mindshare from the Salesforce reps? I'll speak about that in a minute, actually, because I'm coming up to the alliances section. My company is already a registered partner in outside of the UK, and you moved to London. Can I still work with Salesforce? I'm not too sure. I would say speak to your partner account manager. You would probably need to be aligned to a new team. So yeah, I would speak to your partner account manager. Where can you suggest to look for like-minded people to start a consultancy? I'm not too sure, really. Partners.salesforce.com, the partner community, is probably the place I'd go. I'm not actually aware of many groups, but yeah, maybe I could start one though, because it's a good idea. So marketing. How to do marketing via social media. So marketing with Salesforce consultancies is notoriously hard. I've outlined some tips in my book, but I mean, the way I kind of compare it is if you're selling like a SaaS product, like, I don't know, LastPass or something like that, you can sell the benefits in like an image or something, store all your passwords here. But a Salesforce consultancy, you're doing bespoke projects. It's not easy to get people to click through because you have to go, there's no tangible thing you can tell them. I mean, you can tell them about their results and stuff, but they have to go through a process of doing a workshop with you and things like that. So, marketing is notoriously hard with Salesforce consultancies, but doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. In fact, you should do it because, you're building up trust with your audience with Salesforce. So, you probably will get leads from marketing. They'll just be far and few in between. So marketing via social media, again, I mean, it's producing content. It's providing valuable content to the type of people that you're focusing on. So, that could just be generic Salesforce content, like highlighting things in the latest release, or learnings from implementations you've done, biggest mistakes that you've seen, specific things in a certain industry that you've seen, anything that provides value, you just need to put it out there. And, perhaps someone isn't looking for a Salesforce project right now, but they might be in the future. And when they follow your page and things like that, that can produce dividends in the future. So how do I go about getting leads and started with marketing? Yeah, I mean, I would just focus on all kind of the main channels. So social media, email, content, YouTube, as much as you can. And it's hard because consultants obviously are billing their time, and you're not getting paid for this. So it's finding the time to do that. I would say kind of break it down into small chunks. It's very, we're trying to do more YouTube content. And if you just think, right, let's do more YouTube content, it's like such a big project that it's too kind of hard to comprehend. But when you break it down into the steps, start thinking about the YouTube videos you want to do, start actually recording something, it becomes a lot more manageable. And it doesn't have to be YouTube. It could be written content or podcasts or anything like that. But yeah, I would just try and be everywhere. Start producing content, see what your audience like, and yeah, get started that way. So has the recent changes to the partner structure had an effect? They have been changing the partner structure for years, and I was kind of leaving my consultancy as these came in. I don't think there's any difference to kind of the way that partners operate. It's still, different levels. The costs are different. The benefits are different. And of course, you have to hit like certifications and a certain amount of points to go up to the next level. So I think it's the same, but yeah, I'll have to look into that actually. Does having an app exchange product help in consulting world to get new clients? It's good for marketing. We had a free app exchange app at Empower, and actually it probably didn't get us too many leads. I mean, we're on the app exchange and people download it, but also they can check something which says we don't want to be contacted. So I think it can. I think it definitely can, but I wouldn't count on that as kind of your main lead source. And yeah, there's one there about how did you manage the challenge of ever increasing wage costs in this ecosystem? Yeah, I mean, it was an awkward one. I mean, one of the main thing, or one of the most common things, is hiring junior people and training them up to kind of get around that, possibly outsourcing or something like that. I mean, the rates are pretty crazy, especially when you add on recruiter fees and stuff like that. So no easy answer to that one, I'm afraid. So this next section is all about alliances. So building alliances with Salesforce. So this is all to do with becoming a Salesforce partner and aligning with Salesforce and hopefully getting some leads from them. So is it worth becoming a Salesforce partner? Yes, definitely. There are a few consultancies in the UK I know that don't really rely on Salesforce for any leads, but they are the minority. And it kind of depends what you want out of building a consultancy. If it's more of like a lifestyle business and you want to work a couple of days a week, and you've got a network where you can get clients, great. And if you're not looking to grow your practice that much, then great. If you're serious about growing a big practice and potentially selling it in the future, then becoming a Salesforce partner is a must. It's going to be impossible to generate the amount of leads you need to grow a consultancy without grow a big consultancy without having a partnership with Salesforce. As I said, we got 80% of our leads, 90% of our leads from Salesforce. And the ones we didn't get from Salesforce were smaller. The biggest projects we got were from Salesforce. So yeah, and just to highlight, becoming a Salesforce partner doesn't mean you're entitled to any leads. It just means Salesforce will open doors for you. So let's say if you're a new consultancy and you've got loads of experience in the media world, you can come into Salesforce, say, yeah, we do media, we're a new consultancy, can you help us? They'll probably make some introductions to some AEs, to some managers, point you in the right direction, but you're going to have to do a lot of that legwork to prove yourself that you're a valuable partner to start getting those deals through the door. So, just becoming a Salesforce partner and paying that $500 won't entitle you to any leads. You still have to do the work, networking with people inside of Salesforce to get a project. There's no kind of, when a let's say a new deal comes into Salesforce, the AE can pretty much give it to whoever they like. There's no set process. So it's important to build those relationships with people internally. So where exactly do I start? Are there any seminars I can attend about this? So we got this one. So hopefully this is helping. But I mean, yeah, the number one thing to do is just sign up with Salesforce. I don't have a link to hand, but if you type in Salesforce Partner Program into Google, I'm pretty sure you can find it quite easily. As I said, they have a team dedicated to grow partners, and they're targeted and kind of quoted on that. So they are incentivized to get new clients in and help you grow. So yeah, no seminars, but there is my book. So hopefully that can help. what's the process for establishing a solid / consistent lead source from Salesforce AEs? This is the $1 million question. And there is no kind of easy answer to this. So you've got to network the hell out of Salesforce and just become very valuable. So there's a few things that you need to do to be able to build consistent relationships with Salesforce and get leads from them. The biggest one is bringing something to the table. You can't expect to just be given leads and go away and complete the projects. Even if you do a great job, you need to be giving something back to Salesforce and the Salesforce AEs. And the biggest way you can do that is through your technical expertise. Salesforce AEs are commercial, and while they might know quite a lot about the Salesforce platform, they won't know it in the same depth that a consultant does. So if you're attending a meeting with a Salesforce AE, doing the demo, as we discussed earlier, is a great way, but just being very on the ball and helping that meeting go well and move towards that customer closing by answering technical questions, or helping the AE out with customer success stories that you've worked with in the past. So you really need to bring something to the table. They're giving you the lead, so you need to support them and support Salesforce in closing deals. And as we discussed at the start, I would say being commercially minded is massively helpful here. If you do anything to upset a deal, like let's say you go into a meeting, everything goes well, and you're meant to produce a statement of work on Friday. If that statement of work's not there on Friday and it's on Wednesday or the next week or something like that, that could potentially kill a deal. And the Salesforce AE will be very frustrated and probably not want to work with you again. If you say anything in the meeting which could upset the deal, and the customer might think that actually Salesforce isn't the right tool for them, the AE is probably not going to work with you again. So I think people just need to be aware of the relationship that you have with Salesforce. And this is something that I go very in depth in my book. It's a very delicate relationship. If you do anything to upset one AE, word could get around that you're not good to work with. So it's a very delicate relationship, but an important one. Price is also something that's important. So if you're in the SMB, pricing is expected to be cheaper than if you're potentially going in at enterprise or mid-market or something like that. If you're too expensive, the AE might not want to work with you. So your pricing really needs to be right. And Salesforce are known for kind of trying to push the price down, because the more they can get the implementation down, the more they can use the customer's budget to sell licenses and products. This is something you have to strike the balance with, because Salesforce consultants can charge X amount of money, and they deserve that because they do a very fitting job. So you have to balance that out and potentially even push back. Pushing back on Salesforce if they're trying to lower the price too much isn't a bad thing. I think you just need to be a bit flexible. And the last thing is you need to be a pleasure to work with. So, it's kind of like, it's not what you know, it's who you know. There are plenty of Salesforce AEs that I know that have buddies with people in consultancies and will work with them because that's their friend, their buddy. So, everyone wants to work with people who they enjoy working with. So, it's important to try and make the whole process enjoyable for yourself and the Salesforce AE and the customer as well. So someone said, I'm not sure whether this is still the case, but Salesforce used to introduce 3 partners to every opportunity and let them fight it out, which could burn up a lot of resources. Is this still true, and have you found a way to mitigate it? So I would say that's actually not true. I think, from my experience, Salesforce would rather just bring along one partner. If you're bringing 3, that's 3 partners you have to go through, that the customer has to go through the workshop process with, which is just going to delay the deal. So I think Salesforce AEs would prefer to bring in one. I know with some of the newer consultancies, and perhaps if the customer asks for multiple consultancies so they can do their due then 3 might get introduced. But I found that as I got to know Salesforce AEs more and they could trust me, they would just introduce 1. So you might be in a situation where you're kind of fighting out with other partners. And I mean, that's a good practice because it's a bit competitive and it really tests your skills. You've really got to position yourself as the best possible partner. My advice, if you're competing, would be to know your partners well, know their advantages, their disadvantages, and then you can position yourself as the best partner to go with. Right. Is there any other questions? Keep working AEs. Yes, that is the name of the game. Right. So the next section is about people and a bit about culture as well, which I think is very fitting. The first question is, what was your strategy in hiring? Did you go to a recruiter or did you perform the majority of recruiting efforts yourself? So we did it in a hybrid manner. With my blog, it was quite kind of, it helped because I could cold reach out to people. And because people knew the blog, they were receptive to having a conversation. So I was quite lucky in a sense. It made hiring a bit easier because people have heard of Salesforce Ben. And that was pretty lucky, and I think enabled us to grow faster because we didn't have to rely on recruiters. A lot of consultancies will do 100% their recruiting through recruiters, which sucks because they're so expensive. In the UK, we could be paying maybe on average 60K for a Salesforce consultant, and the fees on that would be like 10K. I can't remember how much recruiter fees are, like 15% or something. So it's a lot of money. So if you can avoid it, obviously it's much better. So what I would say to that is it's really important to focus on employer branding. There are a lot of Salesforce consultancies out there. And if you're a Salesforce consultant, a good one, you've pretty much got your pick of the litter. You can go anywhere you want. So it's really important to kind of stand out. And something that I go into a bit of detail about in my book as well is it's important to stand for something. So it's not good to be one of those consultancies which just fades into the background. Like, we do Salesforce consulting, we're fun to work with. We focused a lot on culture. So having a very nice work-life balance, and that attracted those types of people to the company. And we didn't lose a lot of people, which enabled us to grow faster, which is very important. Imagine hiring loads of people through recruiters and then leaving after 6 months. That's not good at all. So, you might want to focus on the work-life balance and being a really cool, cultured company, or you might want to focus on growing so fast and giving everyone stock options and exiting that you make everyone rich. And I think both are very valid options. You just have to stand for something instead of just kind of, being a generic consultancy. I don't think that's going to attract people to work with you. So did you have a large number of contractors or did you prefer full-time hires due to getting full buy-in? So because we were such a culture-focused company, we didn't have any contractors. And that was a selling point to Salesforce. So we said, everyone is full-time employed. Everyone is really bought into our mission and bought in to produce really good projects. Saying that does make some things a bit more difficult because you can't scale up and scale down your workforce as much. Some people that I know will kind of tender out projects. So if they're too busy, they can go to contractors and go, or freelancers and go, right, how much would it be to do this project? And hopefully it's comes under what price you've charged so you can make a bit of a margin. So it's very, very common to use contractors, but the contractors are expensive, so you've got to make sure that you're making a margin. How or when did you determine you needed full-time employees? Was growth predictable enough that you could simply add full-time employees? So yeah, this is like impossible to balance perfectly. Like if you're trying to bill people out at 80-90%, selling the perfect amount of projects and billing people the perfect amount is just impossible. So, I don't think there's an easy answer to this. But you really have to be in control of your capacity and understanding how how much people are billing, so you know how much you can take on. One thing I would say is don't be afraid to say no to Salesforce. It's very easy, when you're getting traction with Salesforce and they're sending you all these deals, it's very easy to kind of get caught up on that and take them all in and want to close them all, and then kind of end up in a really bad situation because you can't deliver them, or you're delivering them all poorly, and that's gonna mean that Salesforce, potentially won't send you any more leads if you're doing a bad job. So it's important to get, it is hard to get that balance right. And I'm afraid there's no kind of easy answer. But using contractors and freelancers can kind of help you out there. So you're not reliant as much on full-time employees. But yeah, saying no to Salesforce and pushing back if you're too busy, is perfectly normal thing to do, even if it's kind of against your instincts. So Laura's just asked, if you don't have too much experience working across industries, do you recommend working for another consultant firm? I think it really depends on your consulting experience. I wouldn't work for if you're looking to found the Salesforce consultancy and you want to, dive into that world and you've got a good amount of experience, I wouldn't work for a consultancy just to get industry experience. I think you've probably got that from previous projects, or you can get that quite quickly. So it's really up to you whether you're kind of at the point in your career where you think you could found a consultancy. But I mean, for me, I was like leading a consultancy after 6 months of working in the consulting industry, and I just had to learn really fast. So I think if your technical experience is good enough to deliver good projects, then you can kind of be confident in your ability to found your own consultancy. In the highly competitive world of Salesforce consultancy, how did you foster the culture and work-life balance? Yeah, it was tough. We actually had unlimited holiday, which is a bit of a kind of oxymoron when it comes to consulting, because people are billing. I think everyone knows when they're working consultancy that you're not always going to have that work-life balance. That is a result of consultancy. I think people move into consulting to kind of accelerate their careers and things like that. And I think it's an expectation that you're not always going to have that work-life balance. But at the same time, obviously, you want to ensure that people aren't overworked. Burnout is very common. So I think there's a balance to be struck there. So the next one is employee retainment. How much should you invest in training? How do you incentivize loyalty, reduce employee turnover? What benefits do you offer? Oh, that one's a mouthful. So yeah, this is really important and kind of relates back into employee retention. If people are leaving all the time, you're not going to grow. It's going to be very hard, people going out mid-project and stuff like that. Like, you really need a few core members of your team that are really bought into the mission. So one potential way to get that is through stock options or something like that, to build kind of, let's say you're a consultancy of 10 people, 3 or 4 really core members of the team is really going to help drive your growth, because if the people kind of around those 4 leave, it's not the end of the world. But if you have key people leaving all the time, that is a disaster. So should you invest in training? Yes, definitely. People leave all the time because they're not getting enough training. People also leave because the projects aren't interesting enough. And this is something that I think is quite interesting with consultancies, because if you're a new consultancy, you're most likely going to be working on SMB deals, Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, quick starts, which is fine when you're starting out. But let's say you've grown to 20 people and it's 5 years since you founded the company. If you're still doing those types of projects and you've got kind of experienced people working on them, that is going to really bore them. So I think you need to make sure you're bringing in the right mix of projects to challenge people as well. So, I mean, what benefits did you offer? We had unlimited holiday. Not sure I'd recommend that to anyone that's founding a consultancy, because, consultants are billable. We had health insurance, which is in the US, I think it's mostly standard, but in the UK, it's kind of a little bit of an added bonus. So we had a company holiday as well, which is quite cool. Once a year, we all went on holiday together. So those kind of superficial incentives are good, but they're not going to keep people staying around. I think you really need to foster a good culture. Yes, the same person asked, how do you handle progression and promotion, which is quite a funny one in our business, because Empower ran a very, very flat hierarchy called holacracy, where promotions didn't really exist. That wasn't a good idea to not offer that. Of course, people want promotions. Like if people join as a consultant and they get loads of experience, 5 years later they want to be in a director position, or a team leader position or something like that. So I think progressions and promotions are very important. You can't just have people in the same role, same title, same salary, obviously. People aren't going to enjoy that and are not going to stick around. What else have we got here? Right, so I'm going to go on to the next section, which is operations now. So this is obviously the core element of founding a consultancy. I think that this is the last section, and will probably take us up to bang on the hour. So if you've got any last questions, feel free to put them in the chat and I'll try and answer them. So fixed fee versus T&M, is one better than the other for starting out? And they've added, I know the SMB Salesforce reps we worked with in the past love fixed fee projects, but small customers can often be more demanding than larger ones due to limited budgets. I completely agree with the second statement. So one, yes, Salesforce reps love fixed cost because it takes one element of risk out from the customer's point of view. If you've got a T&M project, it could obviously go 50% more, which makes the customer a bit more nervous. So fixed fee projects are great from that point of view. But as this person said in the second part of the question, small customers can often be more demanding than larger ones. I would completely agree. Like fixed fees are good. If you're doing like quick starts, which are a common kind of pre-packaged solution, like 5-10K for the minimum deliverables you need for a Sales Cloud implementation, that can be fixed fee because it's kind of got a set amount of deliverables, and you would only sell a quick start if it's appropriate. So, if someone's talking about Apex and stuff, like, don't do a quick start. So we used to do the majority of our projects fixed fee, which was good. And I think that's one of the reasons we created we got a lot of traction, because people liked working with us because we were fixed fee. And we were fairly good at estimating, so it kind of worked out quite well. But yeah, I would say T&M is always going to be better. Again, it's a balance. Fixed fee is projects can go over quite a bit. So it's really dependent on how you want to work. But fixed fee for smaller projects, I would say, is okay. But anything larger, definitely T&M. How do the best partners scope a project and evaluate effort? So yeah, this is like a complete art, and I think you're only going to really understand estimates after some time of working consulting and doing projects. So I've actually, as part of the book and template pack, I've actually got a quick start template, so you can kind of see some estimates that I would give for a project. But this is very, very dependent on the type of customer and things like that. If a project, let's say, goes from being 2 months to 4 months, all of the estimates are going to go up. So it is pretty hard to do this, and I would just say trial and error. So the template, the book and template pack, I've got a few different packages. One of them has got email support, one of them's got video support. So if you did want to dive deeper into estimates with me, then check out some of those packages. Which part of client time do you bill for? Everything after the proposal. So again, this is a really hard one to juggle. I would say bigger consultancies would charge for absolutely everything after a customer have signed. Smaller consultancies, it's going to be harder to get away with that, especially if the budget is tight and it's not T&M. So you do have to be careful of that. But I think it's a good idea to set a precedent with customers that everything is billed, because otherwise they'll just take advantage. And you do need to be flexible. The odd email here and there. I wouldn't go billing every single second. But I think it's important to set a precedent that you are being paid for your time. So something else that we have. So it's quite common in consultancy proposals that testing and project management, the two line items in a proposal, will be a percentage of the overall project. And this is the way that I've seen most people work. Project management, we started to do T&M for fixed cost projects. So just that bit would be T&M. And that was because, as I said before, let's say a project went from being 2 months to 4 months. The P&M time is going to, it doesn't matter what your original estimates were, because you're going to require way more project management time because the timelines have doubled or tripled. And, this probably isn't going to be because of you. It's probably going to be because of the customer. So, and you shouldn't be penalized for something that isn't your fault. Someone said here that they're working in the non-for-profit sector and their day rate is £600, but you're getting pushback that you're expensive. I would say that's quite a fair rate. I think you have to be a bit sympathetic because it is in the non-for-profit space, but at the end of the day, this is our livelihood as Salesforce consultants. So I think you probably have to find a balance, but I think for £600 a day, and if you're pretty good at your job, I don't think they'd be able to find much cheaper elsewhere. Maybe a little bit cheaper, but I would say that's market rate. Do you create support contracts for clients after a Salesforce implementation? So yes. This is often an easy sell after you've implemented Salesforce. Selling them in the UK, we call it managed services. I'm not too sure what it's called elsewhere, but it's the ongoing support contract, X number of hours a month to support people with their Salesforce implementation. And for a lot of smaller customers, it might not be applicable to get let's say 10 or 20 hours a month because they might not utilize it. So producing some sort of custom, 10 hours that they can use, and then as they use them, this goes down. That's a very normal thing to do. I think it's important to emphasize to customers after the implementation is finished that if they're not big enough to have an admin internally, it's important to have someone looking after the Salesforce implementation to ensure that it doesn't, the Salesforce processes and the business processes don't get out of sync. So yeah, that's important to do. So someone's asking kind of how much time to spend with customers after the project is finished in emails and things like that. I think it's good to be flexible. So something that I learned from one client, which I didn't want to the project had ended months ago and they wanted me to jump on other calls and things like that to help them out. And I was staying firm, going, no, the project has ended. If you want us to look into this, then we're going to need to arrange a support contract. They didn't like that. They didn't like that we weren't giving them something to potentially get something in return. And I think it's like a bit of a balance. I think, the odd email to show that you're willing to help people, even if they're not in a contract with you, I think is good. But again, you can't let people take advantage of you because they probably will if they're getting something for free. So I think it's good to, especially when you're starting out, give a little for free and then get something back in response, in return. Sorry. So yeah, I think those are all my questions on the sheet that we got. So I hope that was helpful for everyone. I'll just look through the questions now. So got about 6 more minutes. So if anyone else has got any questions, feel free to put them in. What are the top 2 metrics that you would watch regarding operations? I would say, utilization, obviously. Utilization and probably sales pipeline are probably two of the main ones that I would be watching, just to make sure that you've got enough in the pipeline to be feeding the consultants, and the consultants are actually billing enough. How do you manage expectations in terms of timeline of a project? Yeah, so this one is hard, and it's going to really come down to your project management skills. As a consultant, we had projects that were like 10 grand go on for 2 years because we didn't control the project enough and set a precedent. So it's very important to provide timelines for the client, but also remind them that if the timelines are shifted and if they are delaying the project for something that's completely out of your control, then there might be an extra fee that they need to pay or something like that. Because again, I always focus on what's fair. And if you have a set timeline and things that happen completely outside of your control that delays that, and it means that you have to work more time, then you should be paid for that. So yeah, that is a tough one. Which Salesforce consultancy do you think a boutique consultancy? Which Salesforce products do you think a boutique consultancy should focus on as their niche in the UK? Which products? Well, I'm not too sure which products, especially in the UK. I suppose two which I think are still up and coming a lot is CPQ and billing. They're hard to get your head around, so if you can focus on those, then those are good. But I think this is a really good point, because I haven't really talked about kind of product niches, but they are very important. We did a lot of work with Interaction Studio, which was a product called Thunderhead. We were one of the only people in the UK could do this, so this massively helped us. So if you can get on the ball with new Salesforce products, like what's a new one that's come out? I can't think off the top of my head that requires implementation. But any new products that are coming out, it's a good job to kind of skill up on them and become an expert. How many people should be on the project team? I think it of course depends on how big the project is. In a medium-sized project, I'd probably say minimum 2. The way we would do it is we would have a consultant and a project manager. I wouldn't have. I mean, if you're small, obviously have 1, but I think it's a lot better to have 2, because you kind of have a project manager, which is bad cop, and then the consultant, which is good cop, and the project manager is pushing things along, making sure things remain in scope, pushing back when the customer tries to go out of scope and things like that. So at least 2, I think. But if you're smaller and that's not possible, obviously it's not a problem. Is it worthwhile working within a marketing niche solely focusing on Marketing Cloud and Pardot? Yeah, I think it is. There's a consultancy in the UK that I know that focus on Pardot. They've created a really good niche for themselves, and now they're branching out into other products like Core Sales Cloud, which I think is great. So I don't think you should really just focus on Marketing Cloud and Pardot, because I think there's a lot of opportunity to focus on the wider ecosystem. But to start off, I think that's really good. It's also important to remember that most implementations won't just be Marketing Cloud on their own or Pardot on their own, but Marketing Cloud and Sales Cloud, or Marketing Cloud and Service Cloud. We did a lot, or Pardot and Sales Cloud. So yeah, I would say, yeah, possibly to start off, but I think it's important to focus on the other ones as well. And last question, I think, which will bring us to 6 o'clock. Is your book also targeted for freelancer and scale up at a later stage? So yeah, good question to finish. So I think my book is really focused on anyone who wants to start a consultancy, or is maybe a freelancer or a contractor who wants to move in that direction. If you don't want to build a consultancy with lots of people, I think it would still be very valuable to understand how you can get leads, how you can market, what services you should sell, things like that. But I think it's really aimed at people who don't know about this whole world, to hopefully open it up for them a bit more. Okay, one more question just so it's come in. Do you think a small consultancy of up to 5 people, all staff, should be Salesforce certified, or can it be effective with 2 or 3 consultants? Yeah, I mean, if they're sales, I don't think they need to be certified. If they want to get certified, I think it would help them. I was a technical salesperson, and it massively helped me. So yeah, I would say it's always good to have a Salesforce certification, but not required. Cool. And I think we're done. So thank you very much for everyone to attending. There is a lot more people than I thought there'd be in here. So thank you very much. So yeah, the book is on sale now. I'll put the link. So it's the book and template pack. So you can see all the details in the link there. So yeah, the book really covers kind of a lot of things that we covered today, but in a lot more detail. The template pack, I think, is almost kind of more valuable, not more valuable than the book, but as valuable, because people can spend thousands on these types of templates, and these are provided as part of the pack. So you've got statement of work templates, sales and service cloud templates, which are some of my favorite in there, which are for running workshops with clients. And you've got kind of the whole presentation where you can walk through the whole process, which would really help you with workshops. So check it out. If you've got any questions, feel free to email me, contact me on LinkedIn, anything like that. And it's been a pleasure speaking with you all today. So take care. Have a nice day / evening, wherever you are. Thank you. Bye.